either DraftKings or whoever, like one of the reputable one of the popular sports books. Sup, nerds? It's basketball. Welcome to Horse, a basketball podcast about everything except for the wins and losses. My name is Mike Schubert, and I'm joined by my trusted co-host, the Tony brothers, talking to Jeff Teague during a game in the past, to him asking Jeff Teague, whose mother and aunt were sitting courtside cheering him on, who them H words. It's Adam Mamawala. Adam, how's it going?
Oh, wow. And this is reminding me, we certainly have to talk about Kelly Oubre Jr. and his outburst, because what a spicy time that was. Who them H words? Huh.
Yes. So this was clipped from Jeff Teague's podcast, the Club 520 podcast, which I don't listen to, but I'm glad that my YouTube algorithm is like, hey, you like Jeff Teague clips, because then it just feeds me shorts of Jeff Teague telling funny stories, because I don't want to listen to the full podcast. I just want to listen to the parts where Jeff Teague tells funny stories, because that's the only good part of that podcast. But Jeff Teague, elite storyteller. And he was saying that when he was back in the league, Tony Brothers, who's one of the refs that people don't necessarily like as much, he saw that people were very enthusiastically cheering on Jeff Teague. This was like his rookie year or something. So his mom, it was either his mom and his mom's sister or Jeff Teague's sister. But like, he has family sitting courtside that is very happy for Jeff Teague to be playing. And Tony Brothers, who Jeff says is like someone who tries to be friendly with the players, asked him who them H words, which like a wild thing, but also a wild thing given that like there's a very high percentage chance that it's family. That's just unhinged.
Yeah, I think maybe you wait to use that term until you know that it's not someone's family, and then maybe still you don't, but it's an interesting approach for sure. Tony Brothers is notoriously spicy. There was a clip of him messing around with Tyrese Halliburton, making fun of his jumper form. Did you see that at the All-Star weekend? I mean, it's fun, I guess, if he's like goofing around and like ball busting a little bit, but yeah, that's quite a tale.
Yep, interesting stuff. So let's get into more basketball things here at Horse. And we get ready for basketball things in the Teal Memorial locker room, where everyone asks respectful questions of each other.
As they should.
As they should. You know who also is very respectful?
Probably our newest patron.
Yes, our newest patron, Caitlin, a.k.a. Bluebell. Did they give an explanation of the name? Is it ice cream inspired?
That I'm not sure of. We'll report back next episode. I will get a clarification. Bluebell, not my favorite ice cream, I'll be honest. Oh. There are many better ice creams than Bluebell.
That is a hot take for Texans. All the Texans have probably turned off the podcast.
I'm at a point in my life where there are only 3 brands of ice cream that I eat, and I will still wait until they're on sale. But it's Ben & Jerry's. Haagen-Dazs. No, not Van Leeuwen.
Interesting.
Although my girlfriend Celia actually went to college with the Van Leeuwen.
Oh, with
Fun
Van
fact.
Leeuwen.
Yeah. Ben Van Leeuwen is his name. And also Talenti, which is gelato, but very good.
Yeah, no, I feel you. The Ben & Jerry's for sure. You got to wait for it to be on sale. But when it is on sale, fantastic.
If you get it at a bodega, it's $100.
Right, yeah. Bluebell is, I don't know, I haven't had it in a minute. The joy of Bluebell, it is like decently good, and it comes in a giant tub, and it's like $3. Like, it's
that I like. I do like it.
And there's certain flavors, like their coffee is pretty solid. Their coffee flavored ice cream is good, and it just comes in an industrial size container. And because you have to buy it in Texas, it's $3 because groceries are free in Texas.
Having just been in Texas over the weekend, everything is bigger there. I saw a hot dog at the Texas Rangers game, early baseball reference, that was literally like 3 feet long. This is just outrageous.
Anyway, thanks, Caitlin.
But anyway, thank you for inspiring this conversation about ice cream, and we'll find out if that has anything to do with your patron name. But either way, thanks for hopping on board.
Yes, and also thank you to our producer-level patrons, Polly Burge, Kendra Hadley, Salvatore Testa, Siobhan Ellsbury, Dunko Jason, Taco Falls, Bang, Bang, Roast Beef Debris, How About Them World Champion Denver Steam Nuggets, Anna Reed, Steph Curry shed a tear thanks to Draymond and then put the Magic to sleep.
He did, and bang.
Hi, Trish, Nicole Shepard, Chase Underulo, Haley Zink, Naked Rachel, Sidney Crosby's Vampire, Chelsea's Cousin, Ginger Spurs Boy, Balls to the Walls, and Artie Party. And also, we got a fun note from, I'm afraid to say the name because I bet we butchered it, from our patron whose name we discussed last time.
Hisio. And the note says, hey, good job pronouncing my name. Let's say A+ for effort, since double vowels and the last letter O with an umlaut, I think, is hard for non-Finnish speakers. Surprisingly enough, my Insta handle seemed almost easier for you to pronounce. So you did a great job with the Instagram handle. But anyway, we also got a fun note from Ginger Spurs Boy, who did clarify, because there was some discourse last time about, like, it sounds as if the implication is Ginger Spurs Boy is Chelsea's cousin, and we have learned that Ginger Spurs Boy does in fact have a cousin named Chelsea.
Well, he said he might have a cousin named Chelsea.
I'm sorry, might. I don't want to put any. I know a lot of people are looking for that hot take about Ginger Spurs Boy. I might have a cousin named Chelsea. I have a lot of family I've never met, so it's certainly feasible. So you never know. Ginger Spurs Boy might in fact be Chelsea's cousin. Is it that Chelsea's cousin? No, but a different Chelsea.
Indeed. Well, thank you to all of our patrons, all of them. Thank you. We very much appreciate it. And you know who also I'd like to thank?
Our sponsor,
Shaker and Spoon. If you're throwing a party or something and you want to do something a little more fun and out of the box, why don't you get a box from Shaker and Spoon? With Shaker and Spoon, they send you all of the ingredients and instructions to make 4 servings of 3 different cocktails that all use the same liquor. All you got to do is provide that liquor, and then you can make all the stuff. They handle the rest. It is cool. It is fun. It is unique. You get to keep the recipe cards forever, so you can be a fancy person for the end of time. And if you go to shakerandspoon.com/horse, you can get $20 off your first box. The boxes are usually $40 or $50, so that's like half off. Pretty sweet. So head on over to shakerandspoon.com/horse and be a fancy cocktail person without paying absurd cocktail prices, at least for us New York City boys today.
There you go.
So now, unless you're listening on Patreon where you get ad-free episodes, you will hear a break for some sponsors, and some of those ads will be read by us and others of them won't be. The ones that aren't read by us are inserted locally, and once those ads are complete, we'll get back to this episode of Horse. All right, Adam, we are back. What is up in the wonderful world of Adam Amawala?
Well, I just got back from a fun show in Dallas. Thank you to everybody who came out there. I don't think anyone came up to me and said that they were Horse listeners, but if you happen to be there and you were shy, that's okay. And thank you for coming out. If you are listening to this on the day that it comes out, I will be in the Northeast doing a little run of shows in New Hampshire, Portland, Maine, and Boston in this coming week. So on Wednesday, April 10th, I am headlining what's called Ruby Room Comedy at the Shaskeen Pub in Manchester, New Hampshire. The next 2 nights, I will be in Portland, Maine, but the show I would like you to come to is Empire Comedy Club on Friday the 12th at 9:30. Then on Saturday, I'm headlining 2 shows in Boston at a venue called Zone 3. And then what else do I have after that? I got another Texas run coming up in late May, early June. That'll be a Thursday, May 30th in Austin, Texas at the Creek in the Cave. Friday and Saturday in Houston. Sunday at a venue in San Antonio. Then I'm in Connecticut the following week. I'm in Denver in July. Always working on booking more stuff. And that's what I got for now.
Fun stuff. I've got stuff. The tickets are live for some of the things that I have been hyping up. If you are listening to this on Monday, the day it comes out, if you're listening to this somehow before the episode releases, they're not live yet, but they will have turned live before the episode comes out. I know, right? Would it be weird if someone hacked the Zoom?
So just in case Kensei, our editor, tries to buy tickets from Japan to come see your shows.
Correct. But we've got July 3rd, I will be in Seattle, and then I will be in Portland, Oregon for LeakyCon all 3 days. I don't know exactly when the stuff for my podcast will be, but I will be doing something all of the days. So if you get a ticket for any of the days, you can see me doing stuff. Then on July 8th, I will be in Vancouver, British Columbia. And then August 24th, I'll be in Nashville. And August 25th, I'll be in Atlanta. So come on through. Those, I think, are all going to be the newest Olympian shows, because those are all repeat cities where I've done popular shows in the past. So if you want to hear some new Percy Jackson stuff where I'll be covering the Heroes of Olympus, there you can go. And you can go to thenewestolympian.com/live for tickets to all of those.
Very cool.
All right. Should we do an NBQ&A?
Yeah, let's do it. So as I mentioned in our NBQ&A spectacular, we had some leftover questions, and we're going to be getting to those, as well as any other new questions that you send our way. You can always email us at horsehoopspod@gmail.com. That is the best way to get in touch with us. But our question comes from our beloved Salvatore Testa. And I enjoy this question a bit because it's not relevant for me with basketball, but it has been with other sports that I don't follow as much. The question says, if I was supposed to watch a game that ended up being really exciting and one of my friends who did watch the game is like, yo, that was crazy, what are some canned responses to match their enthusiasm that would make it seem like I watched the game? Now,
pretty good.
To me, this is kind of the same logic as like, if there was ever a time that I was in class and there was required reading that I hadn't done or hadn't done fully, I would try to get out in front of it by raising my hand and mentioning something very specific that made it seem like I definitely read what I was supposed to have read, and then I would get out of Dodge. But if somebody took my one comment, I was screwed. I mean, there's nothing you can do at that point.
Right. I think the response depends on how much time you are able to put into it. If you want to know at least some baseline stuff, you could just Google the game. And then just really quickly see like what was the score and who scored the most points, especially if you just like Google it. Google has like an autofill thing on Safari on an iPhone at least, where if you just started to type like Knicks versus Bulls, it would like auto do it and it'll give you a quick breakdown of the stats. So if it was like a 2-point game, you could just be like, a 2-point game, you know, like, or if it went to overtime, you'd be like, I can't believe it went into overtime. Or like if someone went off for 50 points, you could be like, Jalen Brunson, you know, you can do those sorts of things. If you don't even have the time to
because if this happens in real time, someone's like saying
it
to you and you're not wearing Google glasses.
Correct, which was so funny that people made fun of Google Glasses for looking dorky, and now we have Apple Vision Pro.
Absurd.
Google Glass looks chic and stylish in comparison. But yeah, if someone says it in person, you just got to say, that was wild. I can't believe... You could just say he went off, and that could mean anything. He went off could be...
But you better make sure that it's an NBA game that's being talked about.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
You could, or you just say they went off.
Yeah.
And they went off is perfect. Doesn't matter if it's NBA or WNBA. Doesn't matter if you're talking about one person or the whole team or like the coach. I think if you just say, oh my God, they went off, like that, you're done. It's everything.
Yeah, because if someone's talking about how particularly interesting a game was, it's unlikely that it was a game where like 8 different players had 13 points. Like usually something notable happened.
But even if you said that, you could say collectively the New York Knicks went off.
That's true.
Went off.
That's
like
true.
It works perfectly. So I think that is the key phrase. You could just say like general things like, I was losing my mind, or I was screaming at my television, or I cannot believe what happened. Like if you just say vague things like that, then they will say like, yeah, the Wembanyama dunk. And then you can just be like, the Wembanyama dunk.
You have to hope that they take the lead, because if they do that thing, which I hate when people do, which is like they're calling you on your bullshit, of like the worst is when someone says hey to me, they're like, hey Adam, and then I like say, hey, what's going on, and they're like, what's my name? I'm like, don't do that, man.
If anyone, I don't think anyone's ever done that to me.
It's really annoying.
I'm notoriously bad with names.
I'm not good at it.
I think if anyone ever said that to me, I would just say, oh, you've never forgotten anyone's name before ever? Wow. Like, I would immediately smack back.
But my point is, if someone is, getting the impression that you didn't actually watch the game, and they're like, oh, what was your favorite part? Not cool of them to do that, but then you're up the creek without a paddle, I think. Might be the case.
Yeah. I would imagine that if someone is expressing general excitement about a basketball game, they're not going to think that you're lying if you just match that enthusiasm. So I think they went off, and then statements about your reaction that are vague enough. Because even like, let's say the Knicks won in a dramatic fashion. I'm a Knicks fan, and I would say I was losing my mind. Then I could be happy. Or if we lost in frustrating fashion, I could say I was losing my mind. You just kind of have to have the tone that doesn't make it sound like you're one way or the other. So you can just say like, I was losing my mind. And that could either be positive or negative. And,
well, I think this is good advice. There's a great scene in the show Scrubs. I don't know if you ever watched that show, but Zach Braff's character is notoriously like, he doesn't know anything about sports, and there's a scene where somebody says something about Barry Bonds, and in the show you like hear his inner monologue, and he's like, all right, you know that he plays sports, but you're not sure which one. Say something vague. And then someone says Barry Bonds, and he's like, yeah, Barry Bonds. I love it when he does well at the sport that he plays.
Nailed
it.
Pretty vague, pretty vague. Well, yeah, that was MBQ&A. Now we can get into full court press. Get it like the news?
I do.
So this was mentioned briefly in the little Steph Curry thing that you did, but there was a game in which Draymond Green got ejected about 4 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
The Warriors were playing the Magic, and you could see a very visibly upset Steph Curry, who doesn't show a lot of negative emotion, especially towards his teammates, visibly upset and frustrated. And then he didn't necessarily explode. Andrew Wiggins had a really good game, but Steph still had a solid game, a lot of assists, 17 points, and they ended up winning. And then he was very jubilant when he put the game to sleep by doing his classic night-night celebration, which is great. It's such a good one. I love it because it is fun. No one's ever done it to my knowledge, and it is something that can be used universally. It's not like a cool 3-point celebration where you can only use it for a 3-pointer. Like, you can do it for anything, and it is fun and it is cute. And if someone does it to you, it is crushing because it's so adorable that if he does night-night to you, it makes it that much more frustrating. So it was really good. He night-nighted the entire Orlando crowd, and then in the post-game press conference, he gave a very mature, reasoned answer when someone was like, oh, is it frustrating when Draymond Green takes himself out of the game? Basically like trying to get Steph to take the bait and say something mean about Draymond. And all Steph said was, we need him out there. And that is a masterclass in Steph covering up his true emotions, which was this fucking guy. Can he just not yell at refs for 4 fucking minutes? Draymond Green was arguing a call not against him, and he argued it so vehemently that he got 2 technical fouls and was ejected. Like, that is inexcusable. Steph Curry should be, he is furious, but the fact that he didn't just like rant about his bad coworker, so impressive. So impressive.
It's sad because it's like, it's definitely become like this cyclical thing where Draymond gets in trouble or he gets suspended or he, does something dirty. And there's all this discussion about like, oh, he's getting help and he's in anger management classes and this and that. And then it seems like they should have a dry erase board in the Warriors locker room that's like days without a Draymond Green incident. Right. And it never gets above 10.
Never gets above 1.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah, they have one of those things where it's like one of those flip score things like in ping pong, but they just have one thing because it's never going to get higher than 9.
Oh, gosh, it's frustrating. But yeah, I mean, hell of a shot from Curry.
Yeah. So now let's go on to another trash talk related thing. This was a game between the Dallas Mavericks and the Sacramento Kings. Luka Doncic of the Mavericks had a fantastic game. He also had a shot that kind of put the game away. And as the Kings called a timeout, he trash talked Vlade Divac, who was the GM in Sacramento at the time when the Sacramento Kings wildly decided not to draft Luka Doncic. I remember being so mad about this because the Knicks didn't do well enough in the lottery to get Luka, and there were all these teams passing on him, and I was like, if we had a top pick, we would take him. Let us do it.
Who did the Kings take? Was it like Bagley or something?
Marvin Bagley the third.
Man, brutal.
Right, super brutal. So what Luka Doncic did as he was walking back to the bench is he started pointing at Vlade Divac and to the crowd, because I think it was in Sacramento, to the crowd was saying, he didn't draft me, he should have drafted me.
I mean, any lies detected? Methinks not.
None.
Also, Luka is all over Dallas, having just been there for the first time in a long time. Like, I got off the plane, the first thing I saw was a huge like pillar with a gigantic Luka poster on it. There's like one of those big like LeBron-esque Nike, or actually it's Jordan brand, I think, billboards with Luka that took up like an entire side of a building. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So I appreciate this. I always appreciate any sort of NBA draft related pettiness, WNBA as well, any sort of basketball draft related pettiness. I fully support. I love the players who have memorized every single person who has taken above them. Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson did a recent episode of Hot Ones Versus, where it's like 2 people going head to head and eating hot wings and asking each other awkward questions. And it's basically like a answer this question or eat a hot wing instead kind of thing. One of those like truth or dare situations. Yeah. And they, the awkward in quotation mark questions to Josh Hart was name 4 people who shouldn't have been drafted ahead of you. And he was just like, oh, easy. And just like trashed 4 people. Like, It's so good.
Wasn't Draymond one of the people that notoriously could like list off the names of everybody drafted before him?
Right. And he was taken in the second round. So it was at least like 30 people. I want to say he was taken like 36th or something. Like, he can name lots and lots of names.
Yeah.
So I always appreciate that. So Luka holding on to that anger is so good. Because it's just, it's such a perfect trash talk as well. Because if you're a fan of any team and you see a particular player that you could have drafted but you didn't do well, you just, it's just like this indescribable negative emotion. Anytime Tyrese Halliburton does something good, I'm frustrated because I was like, we should take him instead of Obi Toppin. And then we didn't. And it's so frustrating because it's like, I want to be happy for this person, but I also am so angry because I want them to be doing well for my team. Not this other team.
And you don't feel that way. Like if somebody drafts them before you had a pick, it's like, okay, it is what it is. But if you could have had them and you missed them, the Bulls have had many of those. I mean, the Bulls have had some really nice late round picks. Jimmy Butler being a notable one. Ayo Dosunmu, who's been a good player as well, but they've missed on some people for sure. I guess let's stay in the spice category. Should we talk about Kelly Oubre Jr. and really getting his $50,000 fine worth?
Oh, man. So there was a game between the 76ers and the Clippers. And on the last play of the game, Kelly Oubre drives the lane, and I believe they were down by 1 point.
Yeah,
and
it was a wild finish too. Like the last minute of that game was just outrageous.
And he goes for a layup. Kawhi is guarding him. An interesting decision to try to like one-on-one Kawhi Leonard, one of the greatest defenders in the NBA. But to Kelly's credit, he got to the basket, and Kawhi was basically pushing him the whole way there. And he went up for a layup, and Kawhi bumped him with his body and then did block it into the rim, wedging it in there, a wedgie, which does result in a jump ball. You have to just, say no one has possession here. But no foul was called. It was pretty clearly a foul. So
I felt it should have been a foul even before he got the shot off. Like I feel
that's what I was saying. It shouldn't have been a shooting foul, and it could have been. I wonder. I wasn't watching the game live, so I didn't know what the situation was. But it could have been one of the things. This will happen in basketball, where you will intentionally foul someone with only a couple seconds left if they're about to get a shot because you have one more foul before they get into the bonus. Kawhi honestly looked like he was kind of doing that, where he was like, I'll push him, and if they don't call it, cool. And if they do call it, that's fine. They have to re-inbound the ball, and there's only 3 seconds left, and they might not get a good shot off. It felt like he was doing that. I
was watching the end of that game live. Like I just put on the last few minutes of it, and it was compounded by the fact that in the last 1 minute of the game, Kawhi Leonard had 2-and-1 plays. So like he got 2 foul calls, which I do think were legitimate fouls. But then for him to have gotten those calls and then Kelly Oubre doesn't get one when the game is on the line and they lose as a result of it, like he was mad. And then.
So they were mad. What's funnier is that the game hadn't even ended yet because they had to do the jump ball and then they lost. So then, even though a solid amount of time has passed, he and a very furious Nick Nurse, the head coach, the two of them went over to the refs, just yelling and screaming. Nick Nurse is going nuts, and Nick Nurse is getting held back by an assistant coach. Kelly Oubre is getting held back by Tyrese Maxey, and Kelly Oubre walks over to the refs. He goes, "You're a bitch," then points. They're all 3 of them are standing. So he says it to one, then he points to another, and he's like pointing every time. He goes, "You're a bitch, you're a bitch, you're a bitch." And then my favorite part, he goes, "Okay," either okay or all right. But it's like, "You're a bitch, you're a bitch, you're a bitch. Okay," or "got it," or "all right." I don't know exactly. I have the video. I'm trying to see if I can
we'll share the clip.
I think I'm trying to see if I can. I think he might say "got it." "Got it" is my favorite choice if he does say "got it," but "you're a bitch, you're a bitch, you're a bitch." "Got it?" And then he goes, "You're..."
As if inspired by Tony Brothers calling Jeff Teague's family members hoes.
He says he's already addressed all 3, but then he goes back and he says, "Your mom's a bitch, your dad's a bitch, your grandma's a bitch," and then he goes out of frame. So I don't know what the 4th thing he says is.
Your uncle's a bitch, your aunt's a bitch, your second cousin is a bitch. Chelsea's cousin, lovely.
Bitch. But, yeah, right. The other one.
It had the same, I forget is it from the movie Waiting, where there's that scene, it's like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, you're cool. Fuck you.
Yeah, one of those service industry movies. But just to add "your grandma's a bitch" as he slowly gets dragged out of frame by Tyrese Maxey is peak comedy. It's so good. And then he got fined either $25,000 or $50,000.
He got fined $50,000, but boy, did he get his money's worth.
Yeah, and before the $50,000 fine, he released an apology where he's like, "I'm not proud of this," whatever. But the best was I was texting Sally big Sixers fan who we have had on the show about it. And we'll text anytime something cool happens with either the Sixers or the Knicks, we will text each other, and it's very fun. And the response that I got from Sally was perfect. Sally said, to quote my friend and fellow Sixers fan Life in reaction to this quote, like him or not, he was clearly born to play in Philly.
That is probably the best way to describe what that was. Very little brotherly love displayed there.
Oh, gosh. Just so funny. Just so good. So good. Now, before we conclude Full Court Press, Get Out Like the News, we got to get to the most newsworthy, ridiculous thing that it happened soon after we recorded our last episode, and I thought that more would develop before this recording, but we're recording this on April 4th, and nothing further has developed. But Jontay Porter, who is like a backup center on the Toronto Raptors. He was a bit of a journeyman. He's only really getting playing time because the Raptors aren't necessarily trying to win games this season because then they can keep their draft pick. But he was getting some minutes. And as you will know, if you follow basketball in any other way besides this podcast, betting in the NBA has just gone off the deep end. It is
betting on
all over the
sports
coverage.
Within professional sports in general.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is sponsored by FanDuel and DraftKings, and they're talking about bets during the game.
That's what I hope would become illegal, because it's really weird when it's discussed on the ESPN broadcast. And now it's even weirder that ESPN has their own betting sports book. So it's weird that like on ESPN, they'll be like, yeah, we think the Pistons will lose. Go to ESPN bet. Like that's gross. NBA League Pass was floating the idea. I think they got enough negative pushback where I don't think this will happen, but maybe it will because wonderful capitalism. But there was a thing where they were floating like you could watch a game on NBA League Pass, and then on the side they would have live betting stuff there so that you could just bet like while the game is going on. And it's just gross. It's all over the place. And this sort of thing that happened with Jontay Porter was bound to happen. So what Jontay Porter did this was first happening, I believe, in a game in January. It was like January 26th. He had just come back from injury. He had an eye injury, and he came back, played a game, and then after like 4 or 5 minutes left because he told the coaches that he had re-aggravated his eye injury. Well, then what happened was either DraftKings or whoever, like one of the one of the popular sports books. One of the popular sports books. The sports book did what they do after every day of NBA action, where they'll send an email and they'll be like, here are the people who made the most money, and here are the kind of bets that did well. And this is a normal thing that also happens like in fantasy sports. Like, here's the person who did the best. So they did that, and the highest money earner was the Jontay Porter unders. Now, this is very suspicious because Jontay Porter is someone who is not very well known. So it's ridiculous for people to not only bet on him at all, because he's someone, especially with someone that's a backup center, like there's someone you never want to bet on, because if the game is close, I don't even know if he's the first backup, but these kind of bench warmer type guys, like if the game is close, they're not going to get a lot of minutes. Right. And if the game is a blowout, they might get a ton of minutes. So it's a really risky bet to make in general. But for it to be the number one moneymaker for a game where a guy left early due to injury, self-proclaimed, like I re-aggravated, like there was no play where he got hit in the face or anything. He just during a timeout was like, oh, my eye hurts, and then left. It was really, really suspicious. So apparently things were like being looked into already for that. But then it happened again. A couple months later, I think it was early March, there was a game where he was in there, and then after only 5 minutes took himself out saying he had a stomach illness. And then again, it was reported by that same sports book that like the highest money making bets were the unders on Jontay Porter. Now, unders are when you think someone is going to get under a certain amount of stats. So usually a sports book will kind of look at like how many points, rebounds, and assists did this player get in the past 3 to 5 games. And we'll say, okay, the betting line is, 5 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. And then people were just betting like he's going to get less than that, less than that, less than that. And in both of these games, Jontay Porter got off to hot starts and then immediately had some sort of thing where he had to leave the game. So really suspicious whether it's him or someone else placing the bets or him telling his friends, or if it's like the mafia, like whatever it is. Yeah. Someone seems to be betting things and they are in coordination with Jontay Porter, and it just feels very suspicious.
So at the moment, we don't have a resolution to this, right? It's still being investigated?
No, the only thing is that he's just like not playing anymore. And
Right.
I think the NBA has opened an official investigation. So there's no sort of reporting about what is going to happen or anything, but it's not looking good. I wouldn't be surprised because this guy, like his contract ends after this year.
Yeah.
So he's not like on any sort of guaranteed thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if the NBA tries to make an example out of him and just bans him from the league. Like, what's wild about it is that he was probably going to get signed for like some sort of cheap contract, but even the cheapest contract in the NBA, once you're a couple years in, like he is like close to $1 million a year. So even if you get like a 2-year minimum deal, that's got to be more than what you're making from this betting scandal.
It's just really stupid, and who knows how involved he was. There's no way it's a coincidence, especially for it to have happened multiple times. But you just have to be smart enough to know that there's going to be scrutiny about that. There's a paper trail of all of it. Like we're not talking about bets with bookies. We're talking about major, like, I don't know, billion-dollar companies that are tracking everything and are paying people, I'm sure, tons of money to check for betting irregularities. Like even if Jalen Brunson, right, who's like a star player in the league, I imagine on any given night there are a ton of bets regarding Jalen Brunson. But even if someone like him at that level, if on a particular night there were like 10 times the number of bets about him hitting the under, and then he got injured in that game, there would be scrutiny on him, let alone some guy who's like a no-name player who no one would ever bet on. Like at most you would think that someone like that would be part of like some wild parlay that's like, I'm going to take the under on 6 different people and see if my $1 bet pays out 30. But it's tough. And, you know, another baseball reference, there's all this stuff going on with Shohei Ohtani, who is the face of baseball, and all this weirdness about his translator who's supposedly stole money from him to cover his gambling debts. But it seems very much like a cover-up, and that he's taking the fall for Shohei, because who has $4.5 million to bet without thinking twice about it? Probably the guy who's making a ton of money, but also at the same time, if you have that much, you could theoretically cover those debts. The whole thing's very weird. I have every expectation that Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, is going to sweep it under the rug because he's that sort of person.
Because he's a star. And he's that kind of person, and he's the star. Jonte Porter, like, nobody's going to care. So Adam Silver's going to be like, we're taking a stance again. But like, they're going to do a thing for a PR campaign to be like, look at us. And I think this dude will be banned for life. And it's just, if he was an important player, it wouldn't have happened.
But the best tweet about it, not even the Jonte Porter thing, but about Shohei Ohtani, which obviously is all like related here. Someone was like, yeah, I can't believe this has happened, reported, you know, ESPN report sponsored by FanDuel, DraftKings. Like, you know, the point is, it is very hypocritical to be condemning this when you're actively endorsing it constantly. And I'm someone who I'm a grown adult. I have bet on sports before, but in a very like limited and reasonable way. And it scares me to think that people who are 18, like if I were in college and I had some extra money and I was 18 and could access a gambling app, like, I don't know, maybe I would do something stupid. My brain isn't fully developed. Like it's a scary thing that it's become as accessible as it is. Like, this is not, you have to drive to Atlantic City and place a bet with someone. This is, you take out your phone and in 3 minutes you can bet more money than you have.
Yeah, it is definitely going too far. I hope that there would be something that changes for the better because of this. I don't know if anything actually will, but I think it's emblematic of just how dangerous and scary this stuff is. And I feel like we're going to have a thing where, you know, a couple years from now, there's going to be a big epidemic of people with legitimate gambling addictions, because just like you're saying, like, people are very young and just betting on things. Like, I remember I was at the US Open, Tennis Open last year, and there were people doing the like live bets of like who's going to win the next game. And it's just, maybe I was a little judging book by the cover, but I don't think these polo frat boys knew anything about Caroline Wozniacki's tennis ability. Like, it's just, it's absurd, and it's getting out of hand, and the Jonte Porter thing is super wild. And it's also just, it's frustrating because why would you, I mean, this guy's not very bright. I don't think he's necessarily a smart person. His brother's Michael Porter Jr., who thinks COVID is a hoax and all these other conspiracy theories. So like, I don't think that it's necessarily an intelligent person who would think, but like, why would you do it twice? Just do this once, especially if it's your game back from an injury. Like, if there was ever a time to do the thing and come out, like, it would be very believable that you could do this thing, tell some people, and then be like, look, I'm going to say that I'm going to drive to the basket and pretend I got hit in the head, and say that it aggravated my eye injury, and then I'm going to get out of there. We're going to do it once, and that'll be the big Ocean's 11 job, and we're out of here. But like, why would you do it multiple times? It's just... And also there were like reports that people were trying to like maximize the amount that they could bet. And they were trying to, usually these things, unless you are a VIP person, will cap you at like $1,000 or $2,000 or something. But people were trying to place multiples and $10,000 and, link all three unders of points, rebounds, and assists for Jontay Porter. Like, whoever was doing it was doing the most suspicious type of behavior for an already suspicious thing in an app where they are regularly checking these sorts of things all the time. Just not necessarily a well thought out heist went down here, and they got caught, and it was very silly.
Yeah. Now, final thing in full court press, the news just came out that Julius Randle is getting season-ending shoulder surgery. He had been trying to come back from an injury. What are your thoughts?
I think I am to blame. It's all my fault because the Knicks were looking really good in January after we made the OG Anunoby trade, and I said positive things about the Knicks publicly, and I shouldn't have done it. I jinxed it. He got hurt. OG got hurt. It's all me. It's my fault. I did this. Everyone can blame me. I shouldn't have said nice things about the Knicks. It was just very interesting to be in a situation where we were really good at basketball, and I expressed that out loud. And how dare I fly so close to the sun to be excited about my team? This is why I almost never tweet anything positive about the Yankees, because I'm always afraid I'm going to jinx them and that they won't win. I very rarely will tweet positive things. I never trash talk other teams because I feel like it's going to come back to bite me. I really just need one of my teams to win a championship. Besides the Storm, I need the Knicks or the Yankees to do it so I can just endlessly talk smack and not fear repercussion. But yes, I would just say this is my fault, and you can blame me. And it like, seriously, it sucks because we were so good during that month, and I don't think we didn't even have Randall during that month. Like, his injury was beforehand, so we were so good. And it was like, we have this good of a team, and Julius Randle's not even on it. We're gonna win the title. Like,
does this now change your the ceiling of your expectations for what this Knicks team can do, knowing that he's not going to be back?
For this season? Yeah. Like, I think the Celtics are so good that it was always the Knicks can beat any team. I think we can still hang with any team in the East without Randall. At least like give him a fight. I think certain matchups are going to be way harder now, but it was one of these things of like, we could probably still hang with anyone even without Randall. Even if we had Randall, beating the Celtics was going to be tough. So without him, I don't think it's feasible.
Final thing. Talking about the Knicks, we have to talk about the Bulls, and we have to do a little promo for something that we're planning to do in a few weeks. So at this point, the Bulls they're actually tied with the Hawks for the 9th and 10th seed in the play-in. Hawks have been trending up. They actually beat the Celtics twice in the past couple of weeks, one time coming back from like 30 points down. There was another time where there's a very dramatic game winner at the end. All that to say, it seems almost... I would say, now I'm going to jinx, it seems very, very, very likely statistically that the Bulls and Hawks will be playing in the 9 versus 10 play-in game. And Shubes and I are planning to watch it together and also stream it for you folks to watch with us and see our live commentary. So this will be on Wednesday, April 17th. Remind me what the name of the site is that we're going to use.
It is on Playback.
Okay.
Yes.
So something to keep an eye out for. We'll be tweeting about it, obviously, and we'll share all the information. But it should be interesting. It might be the only playoff-ish game that the Bulls play. We shall see. Something fun to be on the lookout for.
But yeah, just check out the social media or the Patreon or whatever. We'll post stuff once we figure out the links and all that kind of stuff there. But do that. It'll be fun. It'll be a good time. Alrighty, so now we can get into our special edition of the second half of this episode, which will be 2 That Actually Happens. And you can probably tell we went a little longer in this full court press because a lot of things went down and it was fun and goofy. But we have some cool That Actually Happens that were both current things that Adam and I attended basketball-wise. So we'll talk about those about like 10 minutes or so each, and that'll close out the episode.
Yeah. Do you want to go first? Chronologically, you saw the game first, but...
Okay, then sure, yeah. So,
go for it.
that actually happened is that I finally saw LeBron James play basketball live.
Yeah, you
I did it. So I had purchased tickets to Nets versus Lakers on Easter Sunday, and I had bought them with a ticket website that would let me return them up to 72 hours before the game started, which was very intentional because if you got injured, I don't want to go see a Nets game, especially one that cost me that much money, because tickets were still expensive. It wasn't as expensive as when the Knicks were playing the Lakers. So since the Nets already don't have any fans and now they're bad, comparatively much cheaper tickets. So I got some solid seats. I basically had the first row of the upper deck, which
and you just went solo,
Barclays, right? Yeah, I just went solo. First row of the upper deck isn't too bad. Barclays, as we've said before, it gets very vertical in the second row, but if you're all the way down in the front, not too terrible. But then, even if you're 5 rows back, you're just that much higher and the players will look like ants. But it was cool. I got there as early as I could in case LeBron was doing an early warm-up thing like Steph Curry does. He did not do that, so I just read a book in my seat. I mean, look, what am I going to do? Watch the Nets pregame stuff? I have no stake in it. I wore all Knicks stuff there. What was fun is that I got to my seat and there was this little thing on it that was you've won the random thing, come to this section and spin the wheel for a free prize. So you go and it's one of those things where they try to talk you into season tickets. And I was wearing my Knicks hat backwards and my WNBA hoodie. So the person didn't recognize I was fully decked out in Knicks gear. And they were oh, are you interested in becoming a net season ticket holder? And I was and I started to think of what awkward answer I could give. I was no, I'm not necessarily a big Nets guy, but maybe. And then he was but you're a WNBA fan. And I was yeah, I would definitely go to some Liberty games. So we ended up talking about that, which allowed me to dodge the, I actually am a Knicks fan and I hate your team sort of thing. But spun the wheel and I won a free Nets t-shirt, which I immediately donated to charity when I got home from the Nets arena into the donation box. But watched the pregame stuff once the players came out. Then I was just doing my thing, as I've said on the podcast earlier, that I did when I saw Giannis for the first time live. I just looked at LeBron the whole time. I didn't look at anybody else. I wasn't cared about anyone else. Even when LeBron was on the bench, I was staring at LeBron to see what he was doing, but I was just focusing on LeBron the whole time. And it was cool. Watching him warm up was interesting. Everyone was wearing this standard issue yellow Nike warm-ups. LeBron had a different top on. His was black, which I just loved. That was I'm special and I'm wearing a different outfit because I'm LeBron. And watching him warm up was fun. He was knocking down threes. He was going for fun dunks. That was cool. But then the new song, the Kendrick Lamar and Future song that has the Drake diss portion by Kendrick came on. I think it's called Like That. And when Kendrick's verse came on, LeBron stopped everything he was doing and just rapped the entire Kendrick Lamar verse, just pacing back and forth rapping, just stopped basketballing on a dime and was I'm going to rap every word of Kendrick Lamar. And it was fascinating because much like I think any person, I love when LeBron does relatable stuff. He definitely didn't know 100% of the words. He knew 90%, but there were a couple of times where he was still nodding his head, but not rapping. And then now I know this part. So he did all of that, then got back to basketballing once Kendrick's verse was over. But then the actual game started, and I was very worried because the Nets were so terrible that at one point it was 31-7 in favor of the Lakers. And LeBron hadn't really done much. He had, I think, 2 points, 1 assist, and 3 rebounds at this point. It was just Anthony Davis was going off. All these other players were making shots. And I was worried that it was going to be such a blowout that LeBron would just rest because he's still dealing with an ankle injury of sorts. It's not something super bad, but he has every now and then taken a rest game. And I was worried oh no, if this is a 40-point blowout, he's not going to play at all. And I was really, really worried. So at that point, I was actively rooting for the Nets to make it a closer game, which they did do, which was nice. So LeBron still did play a healthy amount. But what was so fascinating about watching LeBron in this particular setting is that, he's 40 years old. He's in year 20 or whatever in the NBA. And it's obvious that he is picking and choosing his spots. Like there were certain possessions where it was just, oh, I'm going to play defense on this one. And there were certain possessions where it was like, oh, I'm going to try really hard on offense on this one. And there's sometimes where he's just standing on the 3-point line, very much being like, all right, Austin Reeves and Anthony Davis, you run a pick and roll and I'll be here just in case. And even like within possessions, if they did dish it out to him with like 8 seconds left on the shot clock, then it was just like, it was like that meme where the person's sitting back playing video games and then they lean forward playing video games.
Right.
Like you could actively see that happen. And when he was in engaged mode, he was just as fast and agile and as athletic as he's ever been. Whether he was driving down super fast, when he was in the post doing little post moves, like super agile, very quick. I don't know how you guard him. Like he could turn left, he could turn right, he could go back, he could go in, he could pump fake you. And when he would turn it on, it was fascinating. And it was honestly like interesting to see, especially as someone who feels myself getting older and my body being like, I got to pick and choose my spots sometimes when I'm playing recreational sports. It was so interesting to see like when this guy tries, he's the greatest athlete ever. And he's coasting at certain points. Oh, it was so
and I
interesting.
think that's what really separates him from Jordan in that debate in terms of like when Jordan came back for the Bulls, the second three-peat, and then especially when he was back on the Wizards when he was older, his game was completely different. Like the explosiveness was really not part of his game anymore. Like he would still dunk occasionally, but he wasn't playing above the rim. And LeBron obviously has evolved a lot. His shooting has gotten way better than it was when he first came into the league. But he can still do the same stuff that he did 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And there are very few people that I can think of that have done that. Like even for the people that have stayed around a long time, like the Vince Carters of the world, who's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Congrats to Vince Carter. But he relied on his 3-point shooting late. Like he was not doing windmills when he was 38, and LeBron can still do the same stuff. Like it is true that he is kind of picking and choosing his spots and being more efficient out of necessity and out of self-preservation. I think it also speaks to the amount of money he spends to maintain his body.
Yeah. And it was interesting to see, like he almost had this ridiculous dunk in like the second quarter where he almost like drove the lane, yammed it on a guy, he got fouled, he like almost made a ridiculous dunk. He was making incredible full court passes in the first half, just these huge, throwing it from the other side free throw line all the way to Anthony Davis, who was past half court at the closer free throw line. He had a bunch of those, which was really cool. So in the first half, it was kind of just like LeBron making a bunch of really cool passes. But even still, I felt a little bit, because they were still up by a lot. I was like, man, this is not like a classic LeBron game. Like he's doing fine, but clearly he's not trying super hard, which granted, the Nets are horrible right now. So he shouldn't try hard. Like he should be preserving. I totally get it. But then thankfully, the Nets kind of clawed their way back in the second half, and it became a bit of a closer game. So basically in the fourth quarter, LeBron had to be LeBron, and you could tell he was like, all right, enough of this. And he just made a bunch of 3-pointers. He ended up shooting 9 for 10 from 3 in the game, which is his career highest percentage, just ridiculous. And some of the shots, there was that one play, I don't know if you saw, where he was just like kind of dribbling back and forth, kind of sizing up his defender. And then it's something I've never seen before. He just really fast, like drove specifically to the corner to shoot a corner 3, like with the speed that someone would drive to the basket, but to the corner 3 area, and then shot this like fadeaway falling out of bounds 3-pointer and just left his defender in the dust, made it, fell like into the crowd. It was just like, I've never seen anyone do this on a basketball court before. It was just a bizarre highlight. That is the play that is going to stick out the most for me from this game, that particular thing. It was just really cool to see him absolutely go all in at certain moments, especially in that fourth quarter, and the crowd was going absolutely wild. It was clearly a Lakers game in there. Like, I don't think I saw more than 10 people wearing Nets stuff. Like, everyone was there for LeBron and the Lakers. It was funny in the beginning of the game. When they'll do the introductions, they will introduce the opposing team first. So they introduce the opposing team, and, LeBron gets huge cheers. AD gets pretty big cheers. And then they do this in all sports. They'll do this in baseball too. at the end, they'll say the coach. And, usually you get pretty big applause for the players. And then when they get to the coach, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, middling applause. So basically, the Lakers were getting home team level volume. And then Darvin Ham, their coach, kind of got like oh, okay, yeah, nice Darvin Ham. Every Nets player had quieter applause than Darvin Ham. And of course, since it's at the Brooklyn Arena, they're the ones with all the musical like Mikal Bridges, and then everyone's like, oh yeah, like it was ear-shatteringly quiet. I took a couple voice memos on my phone because it was so funny, so I might insert those to kind of give the impression of how truly quiet it was when they were trying to get the Nets fans to be excited about the Nets. But when LeBron was going off, the place was going wild, and there was a point where I think he had made either 2 or 3 3-pointers in a row, and then everyone was like standing up and pulled out their phones in case he made the next one, just for ultimate heat check kind of stuff. And it was just fun. When he got subbed out with like 3 minutes left, he basically got a standing ovation. It was just so funny that everyone was there, similarly as I was, to see LeBron do some greatness, and he did some greatness, and I'm very glad that I witnessed it, and I can cherish that as like I saw a LeBron game and it was awesome, and that actually happened.
Yeah, I gotta say your LeBron Barclays experience is very reminiscent of my seeing Steph Curry at the Barclays Center, in that no one was there to see the Nets, and it's very funny because they are a poverty franchise. I got to see Caitlin Clark this past Monday, and it was not something that I expected to happen, but it did happen, and unbelievable. I mean, on back-to-back days, you got to see LeBron drop 40. I got to see Caitlin Clark drop 40. They both hit 9 threes, although LeBron was actually more efficient. Caitlin Clark was 9 of 20 from the field. But for anyone who has been living under a rock, more people have been watching women's college basketball, probably, I would say, than men's college basketball. I do have to say, both tournaments have been very, very good this year. I know you're not a college basketball guy, but on the men's side, it's been some really high level of play. And then Caitlin Clark this past Monday had a highly anticipated rematch with Angel Reese and the LSU Tigers, and the game just happened to be in Albany. So let's backtrack a little bit here. Now, this is Caitlin Clark's final season in college basketball. She has become by far the most famous person in college. I don't know, college sports in general. Like, I think we've talked about this on the pod before, but like, she is single-handedly creating an economy, like Taylor Swift like stuff, where anytime she's playing in a game, the tickets are 20 times more expensive than they would be for any other game. Now, last year, the Iowa Hawkeyes, who she plays for, faced off against Angel Reese and the LSU Tigers in the final. It was a very, very spicy game where the refs kind of got overly involved. There were technical fouls on multiple people. Angel Reese, who is known as the Bayou Barbie, which is a fun nickname. She plays in Louisiana, and is a big fan of eyelashes and glitz and glamour and all that business. But Angel Reese was doing like the hand in face, like you can't see me sort of celebration. There was all sorts of discourse about it. It was a response to Caitlin Clark doing it.
Yeah.
And people rightfully criticized the fact that they were like, oh, so when Caitlin Clark does it, it's like fun and games and, bragging. But when Angel Reese does it, she's a bad sport, or she has a bad attitude, or, all this like racially coded bullshit that you see throughout sports everywhere. But it just so happened that those two teams faced off again in the Elite Eight. We knew that it was going to be Caitlin Clark's final time playing college basketball as far as she goes in this tournament. Angel Reese had not yet declared for the WNBA draft. She has since done so because she actually had an extra year of eligibility, which all college players do who played during that COVID year when the tournament was canceled. Mm-hmm. But how this all came to be was that we were in Dallas over the weekend, and it's so cool that like Caitlin Clark has become appointment television. Like, we scheduled our day on Saturday around watching the Iowa basketball game. So it's like, 2:30 in the afternoon, we're watching the game, and we're with my girlfriend and her friend Steph, who is super into it. And she starts to mention like, oh, if they win this game, they're going to be facing LSU in the next round. And I don't think I realized that. So as we're watching the game, I'm like, wait, where are these games being played? I look it up. It's in Albany, which is about 2.5, 3 hours north of New York City. And we're just sitting there like at lunch, and Celia's like, do you want to look into tickets? I was like, are you serious? They're going to be super expensive. She's like, I don't care. Like, your birthday's coming up. I just got a bonus at work. Like, what the hell? Now, this is in addition to her buying me an early birthday gift that you recommended, which are the coolest cleats of all time. They're Jordan cleats. So they just look like the original Jordan ones, but as baseball cleats. Amazing gift. And thank you for the recommendation. So we looked them up. Tickets.
And now we have matching cleats.
Yes, we do.
But mine are the all grays and yours are the classic Jordan colorway.
But so I look it up, and tickets were not cheap, but it was one of those moments where it was like, people overuse the phrase like once in a lifetime opportunity. There will never be another time where these two people are playing each other with a like one and done sort of, like, even in the WNBA playoffs, if they match up in the future, it's never going to be like, it's potentially both their, it's going to be one person's last game in college. They have all this history, which also a lot of people have played up. They have both come out and said like, oh, I have a huge admiration for this person, but like on the court, we're not friends, which is, that's great. That's how it should be. So we go up, Celia has a small place in New Paltz, which is about an hour north, which is about an hour south of Albany. So we had just gotten back from Dallas at like midnight the night before. We wake up at 7 a.m. to drive up to New Paltz so that she can work like, a normal work day. And then we get in the car, we hop up to Albany, which is about an hour drive. Also, credit to capitalism and the people of Albany for fully exploiting the interest that there is in this game. $40 cash only for parking. Love to see it.
Wow.
Yeah, just gross, but you know what? It is what it is. So we go to the game. It's played at a place called the MVP Arena, which I guess is where they have various college games, like Siena College plays there. They'll have concerts there, whatever. But it's a reasonably small arena. Like, it would be like if you just took the first two sections of the Garden and that was the whole arena. So we had tickets in the upper deck, but still like a great view of the action. And it was, this is coming from someone who's been to a World Series game. It's like a top 3 sporting event of my life, just in terms of absolute electricity in the audience. Like, there was a palpable excitement even before the game. So many people dressed up in Iowa stuff. There were a lot of LSU fans, but it was like clearly a Caitlin Clark crowd. Game was completely sold out. People were into it from the beginning. And she did not disappoint. Like, I took a video of the intros for both teams, and I'll share that with all of you. But there was a big pop for Angel Reese when she was introduced. But when Caitlin Clark was introduced, it was probably similar to like when they announced LeBron James at the Nets game. Like, it was so overwhelmingly obvious that people were there to see one person. So first play of the game, Caitlin Clark comes down and hits a 30-footer, and it was like, we're off to the races at this point. And the level of play was so high that I had to keep stopping and reminding myself that I was watching a college basketball game, like women's or men's, regardless. It was such a high level of play. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the game at all, but
I did not.
It was really, really, really cool. It was so loud. People were like standing for a lot of the game. It was the exact opposite, frankly, of my Barclays Center experiences, which is that like no one seems to care. Like, other than when Steph was shooting the ball when I was at that game, you could have like had a full conversation with someone and not even had to raise your voice. And in this case, it was like what you would think of like a super intense college atmosphere where everybody's locked in the whole time. And the funniest thing was that like everyone had the same expression on their face, which is like every time Caitlin Clark did something ridiculous, people were just like laughing at the absurdity of how good she is. Because the defense was pretty good. Like, it's very Steph-like, where she really doesn't need more than like a foot of space and the shot is already off. So she ended up hitting 9 threes in the game. Angel Reese, to her credit, played through injury and still put up 17 points and 20 rebounds. Flau'jae Johnson, I believe is her name, who's on LSU as well, had a really, really good game. It was just super high level. The game was actually tied at halftime. And then Iowa started to pull away in the second half. But I have to say, like, it's a pretty unique experience to see that many people there to see one person. Like, I got to see Jordan the one time. I saw Kobe, but that wasn't as much like everyone's here to see Kobe. It was just like going to a Lakers game as an experience. But it made me like emotional at times just to think about, like, if I had said 5 years ago to you that Iowa women's basketball would be the hottest ticket in town, you would have been like, what are you talking about? And the fact that this is happening at this time, to see like young girls there, like screaming their asses off, like so excited to see this person that they look up to so much. It was incredibly, incredibly cool, and credit to Celia for appreciating how unique of an experience it was for us to go to. For anyone who gets a chance to see Caitlin Clark, I'm forgetting, I think it's Cleveland is where the games are going to be played this coming weekend. But if you can somehow snag a ticket in Cleveland, go see Caitlin Clark. Go see women's college basketball in general. Like, one of my favorite things about this, I feel like it's the Caitlin Clark phenomenon is creating this like role reversal, where I was with some of Celia's friends over the weekend, and one of them is a big basketball fan. And she was doing that thing where she's like, are you like actually like a women's basketball fan though? Like, can you like name anyone else on Iowa other than Caitlin Clark? And I was like, you know what? Touche. This is a line of questioning that many men have used with women over many years of like, oh, can you name 5 people on the Yankees? It's like, well, you know, maybe yes, maybe not, but don't do that. But my point is I got a kick out of it. And yeah, just like overall, truly, I've been to many, many sporting events, like a probably top 3 thing that I've attended. It's like Cubs World Series game, and I don't know, a few others maybe come to mind, but this one is up there for sure. And I'm sure you will go see her at some point in a WNBA game, but just it's become appointment television at this point. And now the matchup this coming, well, it'll already have happened as you're listening to this, but tomorrow, as we record this, Paige Beckers, who is the star of UConn, is going to be going up against Caitlin Clark in Iowa. And then the finals could potentially be it's whoever wins that game versus, in all likelihood, South Carolina, who is undefeated at this point and trying to go for a perfect season. So really, really incredible stuff. And that actually happened, and it was a blast.
Yeah, and one final thing, there's rumblings of this. It's already been confirmed that they're going to do Steph versus Sabrina round 2 at the next All-Star weekend, but now there were rumors of making it a 2-on-2 Steph and Clay versus Sabrina and Caitlin Clark, which you want to talk about appointment television, like that's going to be the most exciting thing. And just, I agree with you. I love that this is, I feel like COVID started it, where when there was nothing else on, people started watching WNBA games and they're like, wait, this is good. And same thing with Women's March Madness, and they're like, wait, this is good. And it's kind of like always has been sort of thing. But I feel like the combo of that plus the Caitlin Clark thing is just, women's basketball is finally getting the love that I feel like I've been screaming on the rooftops about for years. And it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy that people are finally realizing like that it's cool. And here's the real bellwether. Look at the comment sections on social media posts about women's basketball, and they're less shitty than they usually are.
It was a low bar. Let's be honest. It was a low bar.
Right. But like, it's getting better, which is so cool.
And credit to you. I mean, when I was asked that question, I was like, actually, I do know more about women's basketball than I used to, mainly because of the fact that I do a basketball podcast with a friend of mine who is a huge WNBA fan. And I've gotten more into it because of that. Also, speaking of the interest in this game, 12.3 million people watched that game on Monday. On a Monday night, 12.3 million people tuned in to watch the LSU-Iowa women's basketball game. And Celia and I were 2 of the, 15,000 people who got to witness it in person, along with Jason Sudeikis, apparently.
He was very excited.
It was really, really, really awesome. And women's basketball is in probably the best place that it's ever been, I would say.
Yeah, it's awesome. Love to see it, and I'm glad that actually happened.
There you go.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Horror Source, hosted by Adam Amawala and Mike Schubert. Our editor is Ken Saramaki. The music is by Bettina Kampamanes. The art is by Alison Wakeman. The website's by Kelly Schubert. And the social media is by both of the Horse Boys.
Thank you to our producer-level patrons, Polly Burge, Kendra Hadley, Salvatore Testa, Siobhan Ellsbury, Don't Go Chasing Taco Falls, Bang, Bang, Roast Beef Debris, How About Them World Champion Denver Steam Nuggets, Anna Reed, Steph Curry, Shed a Tear, thanks to Draymond, and then put the magic to sleep. Hi Trish, Nicole Shepard, Chase Underulo, Haley Zink, Naked Rachel, Sidney Crosby as a vampire, Chelsea's cousin Ginger, Spurs boy, Balls to the Walls, and Artie Party. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Horse Hoops and on Twitter at Horse_Hoops because
Horse Hoops was run by a person who asks you, what's my name? If it seems like you don't remember their name.
Horse Hoops actually also call my grandma a bitch, so...
Double whammy. Inexcusable.
You can go to our website, horsehoops.com, for links to a lot of the fun stuff we talked about, including highlights of that Lakers-Nets game, of the Iowa-LSU game. I'm also going to share some videos from my experience, and I imagine you have some photos and whatnot from your experience as well. And...
And if you want to support the Horse Boys, head on over to patreon.com/horsehoops. We will have bonus content there. I might put up the full voice memos of the Nets silence. They also had a meet the team thing before the thing, and it was just crickets the whole time.
Well, they have to, because people literally don't know who's on the team.
It was very funny when Ben Simmons showed up. I got a good chortle. But you can go to patreon.com/horsehoops, get bonus audio, bonus video, bonus writing, so much bonus stuff. And you can also go to horsehoops.com/merch if you want to get Sub Nerds shirts and digital items and all sorts of fun things. You can get the theme song as a ringtone, all that cool stuff. So now we're going to get to the end of the episode where we say something on the count of 3. And there's 2 directions we can go.
Okay.
We can either say something basketball related, or we can try to speak into existence that AJ might not be on our softball team this year.
Yes. I feel like that's more important.
The saga. But are we afraid we would jinx it? So basically, for context, for anyone who hasn't been keeping up with the We Hate This Guy AJ who's on our softball team saga, the emails, because the season is starting again in April, the emails have been going around, and he has not been on the past 2 emails. And though the person who runs our team is a 60-year-old man who makes email mistakes sometimes, like 2 in a row feels like I'm hoping. So we can go that route, or we can say something basketball-y. I don't want to jinx.
Yeah, let's not jinx.
So I almost, yeah, okay. So then instead, I kind of I think this happened with your game and my game with having expensive tickets. We had supportive partners who recognized, like, this is expensive, but I know it's important to you. So maybe we say something like recognize significance on 3.
Okay. All right, we can do that.
Just because I think it was nice that, like, it is objectively too much money to spend on a sporting event sometimes, but it's important.
Okay, let's do it.
And it's cool. Recognize significance.
And as we do that, we are recognizing our significant others.
Exactly. Amazing. Yes.
So it's like significance and significance.
Significance. But we'll just say it to where a whole little, look at us, we're like rappers.
There you go.
Where you can take
Double
it either
meaning,
way.
Baby.
Amazing. So 1, 2, 3.
Recognize significance. I forgot what it was. Recognize significance. I was at respect significance. All right, we're doing it one more time. We're keeping this on the episode. 1, 2, 3.
2, 3.
Recognize significance.
It might have been respect. Maybe I forgot.
I don't
Who's
know.
To say?
Either way, it was great.
Thanks, everyone.
Stay away, AJ. We hate you.